Welcome everyone to the October 15th meeting of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. This is week number 12 here in person. I'm President Doug Saltzgaver. We're glad that all of you here in Wakanda are with us today, and those out there in cyberspace watching now or at a later time. And we want to thank Invictus Media Ninjas over here for live streaming and filming our meeting today so people can watch it whenever they are ready to see us. I'm not wearing my mask while here at the podium since I'm safely distanced from you. This way you can hear me more clearly, and especially when I have a microphone that works. And we will be sanitizing the microphone between speakers. We do ask that you keep your masks on when not eating or drinking, or have the opportunity to speak from the podium or the question microphone. I will now ask John Stark to share a moment of inspiration, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and our four-way test. John?
Oh, I was watching. What an amazing and rousing round of applause that was. Thank you so much. Skeet, now I know how you feel. You know, as I was thinking about this, and the word inspiring is an interesting word because it implies some higher level of information. And as I was looking at inspiring quotes, something dawned on me, and that was that we all have some kind of inspiring quote or motto that we use, and that oftentimes we say those things in a cadence that might make it lose its meaning, or even, it just kind of becomes routine. My mom always used to say, let me get this right, if wishes were horses, then beggars would ride. And I think it was supposed to inspire me to do something, and all it really did was kind of make me go, Mom, come on, I'm not a beggar. When I was in officer school, they taught us that you're an officer and a gentleman and you don't lie, cheat, steal, nor tolerate those around that do. And I actually use that right even to this day in my business in real estate when people ask me to do something that might not be what I would consider an ethical or moral thing to do. And I believe in that, and I believe in mottos, and I believe in having something that you can reach out and touch and say, this is who I actually am. And that brings me to Rotary. When I learned about Rotary, and I learned about the four-way test, it really struck me that this is who we need to be for our society and ourselves, in our businesses and in our homes. And as a matter of fact, we also need to be out there talking about Rotary more, because when my wife was asked to do an inspiring talk for her office at Nationwide Ag, she came to me and said, what should I say? And I said, here's the four-way test. Use that. Turned into a 30-minute discussion about how ethically challenged we can be and how our word matters so much and what we do matters so much. So today, as we go to the four-way test, and as we do the pledge, I'm going to speak in the mic when I do it, and I think I can do this correctly, especially for the pledge. We're not going to do the pledge like this. I pledge allegiance to the flag. Let's say the sentence, and let's think about what we're pledging allegiance to. Let's think about what we're saying when we say the four-way test. And then, when we leave, let's go out and be Rotarians for the country. Okay? All right. Gosh, I hope I remember the pledge. Oh, there it is. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? And now, in a CDC-approved manner, please greet your fellow Rotarians.
All right. Thank you, John. Just a reminder, we need more people to sign up for Moment of Inspiration. We ask for one volunteer each week. That's all we're asking for. One thing, once a week. And if you're so inclined to do so, you can sign up online or out in the lobby. Today is the last day for donating to our Operation Warm Coat. Our goal was $6,000, and I'm happy to say that we broke through that goal and that we are now at $6,150. Thank you very much, Rotarians. I do have a problem, though. It takes $20 to buy a coat, and we have $50. Some poor child is going to have half a coat.
Go ahead, President.
Okay, I'll go ahead and put in another $50 so we get to $6,200 so every child can have an entire coat to themselves. Thank you, everyone, for donating. The coats will be distributed to Orchard Place and Child Serve Kids. I checked with the Rotary Police, and they said there's no crime to add more money to this if you still want to donate. So there is a form on your table to do such, or you can email in to Kitty and pledge a little bit more money. So these coats will be ordered tomorrow. So we need to finish our fundraising today for that. All funds received after that will go to my presidential library. I'd like to thank Kavi Shala for donating $50 to the Rotary Club Foundation for sponsoring a table flyer today. Kavi is running for re-election to the Board of Trustees for Broadlawns. So you've got these cards at your table. Please take note of them. Thank you again. There's also another flyer on your table about the upcoming viral Civitas meeting presented by the Greater Des Moines Rotary Multi-Club Committee. Wow, that's a lot of words for a civil engineer. Thanks to our own Jason, who is our club's representative to this committee. This year's event will be virtual on Tuesday, the 20th, next week, from 4:30 to 6:30. This year's program will focus on the critical topic of substance abuse in our metro area. You must register to receive the login information for this meeting. The details are included in Tuesday's e-bulletin for those of you tuning in virtually. And now, I would like to introduce Bill Jackson to introduce our keynote speaker, I should say, very special keynote speaker. By now, everyone knows the drill. Hopefully, we have another working microphone. Katie's nodding yes. So if you want to ask a question, if we have time, please come up to the microphone, state your name, and ask the question. And with that, I'll let Bill take it away.
Thank you, President Doug. I didn't expect a round of applause. I've often enjoyed the sound of one hand clapping. Well, good afternoon. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce my boss of 13 years, Ambassador Branstad. I first met Terry Branstad in 1972 when I was an assistant to Governor Robert Ray. As the newest and youngest Ray staffer, I usually traveled with the governor. This particular day in 1972, we were flying to Mason City to attend a political event for a young Terry Branstad who was running for the Iowa House of Representatives. He won that election and was reelected in 74 and 1976. In 1978, Representative Branstad was elected Lieutenant Governor of Iowa. In 1983, he was sworn in as Governor of Iowa and re-elected 3 more times. After 16 years as governor, he returned to the private sector and added the title of president to his name, president of Des Moines University. In 2010, President Branstad decided to run for governor again and was elected and re-elected in 2014. Governor Branstad won 10 general elections. Throw in a couple of primaries, and he won 12 elections, never losing an election. 22 years as governor made him the longest-serving governor in the history of the United States. President Trump in 2016 appointed Governor Branstad as ambassador to China. He had a long history with China. After years of visits between Iowa and China, Xi Jinping, a then county Communist Party official and feed cooperative director from Hebei province, led a government delegation on farming to Iowa in 1985 and met Branstad during his first term as governor. This was Xi, the future president of the People's Republic of China, his first trip out of China, and his first trip to the U.S. As we recently learned, Ambassador Branstad has resigned his post in China. We are pleased to welcome you back to Iowa and to hear your experiences as ambassador and the overall U.S.-China relations. I am Bill Jackson, and I approve this message. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm Rotary welcome to Ambassador, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, State Representative, and honorary member of our own club, the Honorable Terry Branstad.
Wow. Bill Jackson, thank you for that very generous introduction. I am delighted to be back in Iowa after spending 3 years and 4 months as the American ambassador to China. That's the longest Chris and I have ever lived outside of Iowa, and the longest ambassador to China exceeding the last 3 ambassadors. We had John Huntsman for less than 2 years, Gary Locke for, I think, less than 3 years, and then Max Baucus for about 3 years. So I was there at a very interesting and very difficult time in our relations between the two countries. America is the biggest economy in the world. China is the second biggest. And unfortunately, we've gone through decades where we've been a friend of China and we've helped China become members of the World Trade Organization and many other things. And we've always hoped that the result would be more reforms and more openness. Unfortunately, China has promised but not delivered on that. The Trump administration decided we're going to get serious about making sure that China is held accountable. And the result was that, and the trade deficit during all these years has grown and grown and grown. We put in place significant sanctions against China in order to get their attention and convince them that we were dead serious about fairness and reciprocity, about stopping the stealing of intellectual property and the transfer of technology, and also to see that they purchase a significant amount of agriculture and industrial products from our country. Well, it was a long, hard battle. And it was the tariffs, I think, that got their attention and convinced them that we were dead serious. But after about 2 years, and I can tell you that I worked very closely with our trade ambassador, Lighthizer, and with Secretary Mnuchin. And those two gentlemen did a phenomenal job of representing the United States. On the Chinese side, Liu He was the lead negotiator. And Liu He is very close to President Xi. Liu He was made the mayor of Beijing when they were preparing for the Olympics. And then when Xi became the president of China, there's a huge problem with corruption in the Communist Party in China. He put Liu He in charge of going after and reducing corruption. And now he's the lead negotiator in these trade agreements. So, and another thing that happened was we had delegations that I heard from senators. I went through confirmation about the scourge of fentanyl and how that was killing people all over the United States. And a lot of it was originating from China. And so we asked the Chinese to make all of fentanyl a controlled substance. Parts of it had been made controlled substance, but some of the other precursors were not. President, we laid the groundwork with delegations that came to China, and then I specifically asked the president to, when he met with Xi Jinping in Buenos Aires, to make that request. Xi Jinping made the commitment, and May of last year, China made all of fentanyl a controlled substance. And we are now cooperating on fighting that, and I think it's really saving thousands of lives in this country. The biggest challenge that we faced, of course, was the virus that started in Wuhan, China. And this happened, and you got to understand their system, because a communist system, they are afraid to deliver bad news to the leaders. And so what was happening in Wuhan, the leaders in Wuhan were trying to suppress the doctors and the people that were saying there's a new novel virus that's killing people here. And the result was precious weeks were lost before the Chinese really got serious about dealing with it. And during that time, we had the Chinese New Year. They had a huge celebration. A lot of people went to it and then went to Europe and other parts of the world. And so something that, if it had been handled right, I think could have been contained in Wuhan and Hubei province in China. Instead, it became a worldwide pandemic. And we all know the impact that's had and what it's cost in, I think, lives in 180 some countries, and certainly the impact on the economy. So it was an honor to serve, but I am excited to be back. And I told President Trump that I wanted to come back and I wanted to share how significant the leadership that he has provided. For the first time, we have now a Phase 1 trade agreement that insists on fairness and reciprocity in trade, and the result has been we're seeing protections for intellectual property. We're seeing it being opened up for insurance and financial services, which for companies like Principal Financial Group is a tremendous opportunity. We're seeing agriculture sales like we've never seen before. One of the first things we got when it got there was we got China reopened for beef. And then, of course, they've been hit with the Asian swine flu, and that was devastating to their swine herd. They have, in the first 6 months of this year, purchased more pork from the United States than in a whole year. So, and recently we've seen record purchases of corn and soybeans, as well as pork, beef, and chicken. So this is making a difference for American farmers. It wouldn't have happened if we hadn't decided that we were going to get tough on China and we were going to hold them accountable. And I want to say that Lighthizer insisted on having a verifiable, enforceable trade agreement. And I met with Liu He before I left China, and he's committed to enforcing the trade agreement, as is, I also met with COFCO, which is the biggest egg purchaser in China. The one thing they haven't done yet, although I heard yesterday there has been a recent sale from Shell, I think, of ethanol to China, but they haven't reduced their retaliatory taxes, their tariffs on ethanol and DDGs. But that's one of the things that we're continuing to push for. So it was a great honor to serve there, but I'm proud to be back in Iowa. And as Bill Jackson said, I never lost an election. It's kind of in my blood. I'm pleased to be here to support so many friends. And one of them, of course, is Joni Ernst. She was supposed to be your speaker today, but as you know, she and Senator Grassley are both on the Judiciary Committee. They're doing their important responsibilities and duties. One of the most important things that happens, and it only happens every now and then, unfortunately because of the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we now have a vacancy on the Supreme Court, but President Trump has appointed an outstanding person, #1 graduate in Notre Dame University Law School, an outstanding professor and lawyer, and now a circuit court judge in Amy Coney Barrett. And I feel confident she will be confirmed, and I'm really proud of the questions that Senator Grassley and Senator Ernst have been asking. And I want to say a little bit on behalf of Senator Ernst, because 6 years ago, a lot of people were trying to get Kim Reynolds to run for the United States Senate. And I said, no, I want her to stay as lieutenant governor because I'm mentoring her and I want her to be a future governor. And I can tell you, I'm really proud of what she's doing. But she has a very good friend who was a county auditor. And then when I chose Kim Reynolds to be lieutenant governor, then Joni Ernst became the state senator from that district. And as you know, she went on then to win that United States Senate seat. And now she's in a very tough race. Chuck Schumer and his liberal friends in New York and in California are literally trying to buy this seat. It's an unconscionable amount of money that's being spent. Her opponent, I think, is spending, her opponent and all these unnamed liberal PACs are spending $120 million. $120 million. My last campaign for governor, I mean, her opponent, I think, got more in contributions in the last quarter than I did in my last 2 campaigns for governor. In my first campaign for governor, we only spent $1 million. So it's unconscionable the amount of dark money that's coming in, and it's primarily liberal interest groups from the East Coast and the West Coast. But I believe that Joni does a great job of serving Iowans. Joni Ernst is a mother of an incredible daughter who is at West Point. She is a former lieutenant colonel in the Iowa National Guard. She commanded Iowa National Guard troops in Iraq. I witnessed her patrolling the western part of Iowa when we had the flood and protecting the levees there along the Missouri River. And as a member of the Senate, she's been recognized as somebody that really works across the aisle and has been a real bipartisan leader. She's one that understands the rule of law. Having just come from China, where they don't have rule of law, but they have rule by law. The difference is we have an independent judiciary, and in China, the Communist Party controls everything, including the judiciary. And what has recently happened in Hong Kong had an independent judiciary, but because of the new security law, that's now been eliminated, and basically people in Hong Kong that express their opinion contrary to the communist government in Beijing can just disappear, be arrested, and taken to the mainland. And this is the difference in our system. Our system, we have an independent judiciary, and that is critically important to be maintained. The hallmark of our system is law that has an independent judiciary, equal protection, and due process for everyone. And if you've been watching the hearings and listening to the answers that Amy Coney Barrett has provided, you've got to feel here we have somebody that's honest, that is conscientious, one of the most intelligent and knowledgeable. I mean, she's asked all these questions about all these cases, and without any notes, has been able to in a very calm and judicious way respond and really point out why she would be a great justice. Today, Joni is on duty, along with Senator Grassley and the Judiciary Committee, working on that confirmation process. And I'm confident that their thoughtful and hard work and review of her record will lead to hopefully a confirmation that will happen in the United States Senate. Having gone through the confirmation process, I can tell you it's no easy task, although I was proud to have both Senator Grassley and Senator Ernst there to introduce me when I went through the confirmation. Senator Ernst fights for Iowans, putting the interests of Iowans above party politics. A great example of this was her relentless fight for biofuels. No one worked harder than Joni did to make sure that biofuels were given a fair shot. And this was difficult because the problem with the EPA is they've been anti-ethanol from the beginning through just about every administration. And then we have this issue involving the exclusion for refiners from the renewable fuel standard. And Joni was able to help convince Trump, who then directed the EPA to reject those exemptions. And that is critically important to the demand. And then the other step is to move from 10% to 15% ethanol and having the convenience stores not have to put in new fuel tanks, but just be able to convert the 10% to 15%. Can be done. There's no problem in doing that. I can tell you, I have a 2002 Lexus that we bought brand new, and we've used ethanol in it from the very beginning. It's now got 330,000 miles on it. And they're supposed to be, they said, oh, you should use premium. Never used premium. We've always used ethanol. We've always, E10 and now E15. And so I can personally testify how critically good that is and how important that is to our economy. We have a lot of ethanol plants in Iowa. They're employing a lot of people, and it's an important market for our farmers. We really need Joni Ernst back in Washington. We don't want a senator from Iowa that's beholding to Chuck Schumer and the liberals from the East Coast and the West Coast. We need somebody that will fight for our family farms, fight for our jobs, and really represent our Midwestern values. We need Joni to continue to stand up against the liberal push for the Green New Deal and not raise the cost of living for Iowans, and the cost of fuel will go through the roof. And in fact, if the Democrats get their way, it will eliminate fossil fuels. And what do we mix with fossil fuels? Ethanol, to reduce the pollution of it. And if you think that's going to be cheap, you're dead wrong. It's going to be absolutely tremendously costly. You know, the liberal elites on the coast, they don't care. The California cost of gasoline is through the roof. With the wildfires they had and stuff, they didn't have enough electricity. They didn't have enough electricity because of their mismanagement of the grid system. And it goes on and on and on. We need common sense, Midwestern values, and somebody that will truly represent Iowa. And that's why this election is really important. It's a tough race because the avalanche of out-of-state money that she's up against. But Joni has worked hard. She goes to every county every year, and she's fighting not only to protect our interests on that, but also for our public safety. We need somebody that will not cave in to those that want to have the federal government take over our entire healthcare system and eliminate the opportunity for people to get health care coverage from their employers. We need Joni working to bring the Iowa story to the Capitol to preserve our way of life. Our quality of life and our economy is centered on trade. And of course, I just want you to know that we are blessed in Iowa. I just had the opportunity to see the Council of State Governments report on the fiscal management of the states and how well they've dealt with this virus. Iowa ranks number 1 of all 50 states. Believe it, you know, when Kim Reynolds and I were running in 2010, we were facing a projected $700 million deficit. And you may recall in 2011, I said, I'm going to stop this practice of pushing burdens onto the future years in Medicaid and other programs. We're going to have an honest, balanced budget, and we're going to spend less than we take in. And I kept the legislature in session until till the end of June, because we had a split legislature. We had a Republican House but a Democratic Senate, and at first they didn't believe that we were dead serious about it. We got it done, and in a matter of about 3 years, we got the state's financial house in order. And I told Kim Reynolds, everything I taught her, she's not only done it, she's improved on it. So now we have, despite the huge challenges that we faced here in this last year, Iowa has a budget that's balanced. We have the cash reserve and economic emergency account full. That's 10% over and above the budget. And then on top of that, a $305 million surplus. Now, compare that to our neighbor, Illinois. Total basket case, run by liberals who have spent that state into oblivion. They have the worst state and local debt per capita. They have the worst, I think somebody said maybe Kentucky has as bad an unfunded pension system as they do in Illinois, but they're one of the worst there. And so what they're trying to do now, the one thing that's helped Illinois has been they've had a flat income tax, and now they're trying to eliminate the constitutional provision that controls spending, controls the tax burden. So let me tell you, if that happens, we'll have a flood of businesses and a flood of people from Illinois that want to move to Iowa. So anyway, I'm proud to be back. I love to campaign, and I'm proud to be here in support of President Trump because I saw the courage and tenacity of his leadership and the team that he put together to represent our country in dealing with China. And we are making progress and seeing that we get fairness and reciprocity, not just in trade, but in the treatment of our diplomats and of our media in China. We have let the Chinese have free access to our colleges and universities, to our local governments and all of this, but now we're saying no. You're going to have to live by the same rules we have to live by. If I wanted to visit a college or university in China, I had to get permission from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Then I had to get permission from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs at the province level, and then at the city level. And then maybe we've done that. We've gone through all of that over a couple of months, and 2 days before the event, we get a call and say, well, it's inconvenient, so you can't come. Now, that didn't happen in every province, but it happened too often. And that's what we're trying to change and say, okay, if those are going to be the rules that China imposes on us, they're going to have to live by the same thing. And so I'm very proud to have been part of really changing our approach to insist on fairness and reciprocity. They are a major competitor. We don't have to be enemies. We can, as competitors, work together. And actually, if we do, it benefits the entire economy of the world. Protecting intellectual property rights is not only important to American companies and other foreign businesses, it's important to the entrepreneurs in China as well. So anyway, it's been a wonderful experience. I'm proud to be home, and I'm excited to be here to support President Trump. He had a tremendous rally last night, spoke for nearly an hour and a half, and people were fired up. They were enthused and excited that despite what we've been through with the virus, our economy is coming back, and we're opening up, and we're getting our kids back to school, and I'm convinced that we're going to see a vaccine here in the not too distant future, and we'll be able to get things back to a more normal situation. But Iowa is in a great position to lead the way in this economic revitalization. Thank you very much. And we got time for some questions.
Mr. Branstad, because we're all private citizens here now, we got to know each other working to raise money for the Luther and Willie Stevenson Clanton Scholarship. So in that context, and I'm retired history professor and banker, will you here today, individually as a private citizen, denounce all forms of white supremacy, white nationalism, and its minions?
Absolutely. I'm against all types of extremism, whether it's from the right or the left. One of the big concerns I've got is what happened right here in Des Moines when you had Antifa and some of the radicals who did damage to our capital and to businesses here and threaten people. And I don't think we should tolerate threats from either the white supremacists on the right or Antifa and the militants on the left either.
I appreciate your absolute personal private citizen opinion. Thank you very much. I hope it spreads.
I would also tell you that I'm really proud of that Clanton Scholarship. I think we've got over $2.5 million now in that endowed scholarship. This year, I contributed again to the Clanton Scholarship. As you know, the event was held virtually, but I think they raised again over $300,000. And we've been doing that every year since I started, I think about 14 years ago. And it makes a real difference for these minority kids who have the ability to go to medical school or go into a medical profession to be able to come here to Des Moines University and get that education here, and hopefully then to stay and practice medicine or healthcare in our state or throughout our country. And Des Moines University, by the way, educates more family practice physicians than any other medical school in America.
Fine. We all gain from diversity.
Yes,
So
sir.
Keep it up.
Well, and I could tell you, we did a lot for diversity at the embassy. One of the things we did is, and I'm really proud of this, before I left, we named the atrium after Condoleezza Rice and Madeleine Albright. And I found out when I talked to Madeleine Albright and Condoleezza Rice that Madeleine Albright's husband taught at the University of Denver, and that's where Condoleezza Rice went to school. And she started out as a music major, a piano major, but went into foreign affairs because of the influence of Madeleine Albright's husband. And so when I told them that we were going to name the atrium, they're the first two women to serve as Secretary of State, that we're going to name it after Rice Albright atrium, they were both delighted because they have that personal connection where Madeleine Albright's husband really influenced Condoleezza to go into a career that she's in today.
We'll keep pushing that, the party of Lincoln.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that's right. Well, we also need to protect the statutes of Lincoln as well. I was really, really disturbed to hear that what happened in Portland when they tore down the statue of both, I think it was Lincoln and Teddy Roosevelt, both great Americans, both of them on Mount Rushmore, by the way. Yes.
Mr. Ambassador or Governor, or what shall I call you today?
Hey, listen, I answer to either. I mean, I'm most proud of being the longest serving governor in American history, but being ambassador to China was no small undertaking either. So I respond to whatever. Or you can call me Terry, too. That's okay.
All right, very good. Well, at any rate, I'd like to move from the political, perhaps, over to more of the procedural. And one thing that's always just so surprised or overwhelmed me is how it happens is the transition between ambassadors and their staffs and the on-site staff that remain. But what can you tell us about what went on when you went there to replace another ambassador? What happened? How was the ramp up and the ramp down when you left? What did you do also? Thank you.
Well, the ambassador is the chief of mission. And in China, we have not only the embassy, but we have several consulates throughout China. And one of the things we had to do because of the virus is we had to evacuate over 1,100 members of our mission and their families. And I'm proud to say before I left, we got them all back. And that was no small task because the Chinese have very strict rules on testing and then quarantine of all these people. And the State Department says, no way if somebody tests positive, we're not letting them go into a Chinese hotel or a Chinese hospital. And so I had to negotiate between the Undersecretary of State, Mr. Bolatow, and the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But we did get it done, and we had 11 charter planes bringing them back to China. We only had 2 people test positive. But if they tested positive, we had them. The plane stayed on the ground, and we brought them back to the United States. They did not go into a Chinese hospital. So the way the system works is the ambassador is the chief of mission. You have what they call a deputy chief of mission. And my deputy chief of mission, Rob Forden, is a great guy. He's had a lot of experience in both China and in Taiwan. And so he becomes a chargé. He's in charge until a new ambassador is appointed. And so I felt really good about, and I told President Trump this, I feel very good leaving things in charge with him. We also have a great staff. Just about 49 federal agencies are represented at the embassy. And you know, so they get paid by different agencies of the federal government. But the good thing that I liked was we all looked at ourselves as part of America's Mission China. So we were a team. And I, as the ambassador, was the chief of the mission, and people worked together. There wasn't a lot of turf fighting between the different agencies. We all recognize we're in a difficult environment, and we're representing the United States, and we need to hang together and do everything we can to represent our country and help Americans, whether it's American businesses or American citizens that are there. And we did that, and I think we did it well, and I'm really proud of the progress that we made under President Trump to insist on fairness and reciprocity in the relations between our 2 countries. Okay.
Thank you, Ambassador, for being with us today, and we're very fortunate to have you as a honorary member of our club. So today we are donating the book, Finish the Fight, The Brave and Revolutionary Women Who Fought for the Right to Vote, to the Downtown School Library in your honor. And I know you've inscribed some words of encouragement and signed the book. Thank you very much. We're glad everybody could make it here today, here in person or out watching in cyberspace. For those of you watching on YouTube, there are 38 of us today in the room, all safely distant. We hope more of you will consider RSVPing to come and join us in person, and only if you're comfortable with doing that. RSVPs are due on Tuesday, and you can sign up on the email link that goes out on Fridays or in the Tuesday email bulletin. Our upcoming speakers next week, October 22nd, Jason Andinga, President and CEO of Vermeer Corporation. October 29th, Sally Dix of Bravo. And November 5th, excuse me, Peter Stevenson, Civic Music Association. Again, thank you for being part of your Rotary Club of Des Moines here today. And this is the time when I usually tell you that I'd like you to leave something behind, which is my theme for the year. I've got a little something different. I'm going to give you an example of leaving something behind. I don't know if the ambassador remembers this or not, about what I'm going to state. But as last week I told you, the mask that I'm wearing today was made by a woman and her husband in Liberia, Africa. She was a member of the Washington Mandela Fellowship that visits our city every year. Was unable to do that this year. Well, anyway, last summer I took 4 of those fellows to the Des Moines Farmers Market. And Ambassador Branstad just happened to walk by. So being a Rotarian, I grabbed him and introduced him to our group of international visitors and informed them that he was the former governor of Iowa, longest term governor, and also the current ambassador to China. They were very shocked for a number of reasons. One, that some average Joe on the street like me could actually approach somebody of his credentials and stop them and talk to them. So he said there would be no way in any of the 4 African countries that they were from that they could ever do that, that any such person there would have bodyguards and would keep them anybody approaching them away. But the ambassador stopped. He asked each person what their name was, where they were from, what they did. He didn't talk about himself. He wanted to know more about each one of them. He took a photo with each one of them separately, and he took some group photos. I don't know if you're remembering this, Ambassador.
Listen, I took thousands of photos with individuals in China as well.
I'll bet you did, sir. Now, the ambassador didn't have to do this. He didn't have to stop and talk to some average Joe on the street like me, let alone 4 visitors from another country. But he took the time. He doesn't hesitate. And I guarantee you, he made a lasting remark on those 4 people by spending just a few minutes with them. And he truly did leave something behind that day that didn't cost him a dime, or it wasn't political gain. It was nothing. He was just being kind. And I'm still in contact with those 4 people from Africa, and every now and then they still bring that up. So thank you, Ambassador, for being so friendly and outgoing toward them. And I don't think it matters if you're a Democrat or Republican. That was not a political issue. That was just being a very kind and generous human being. Thank you. One other thing on that, when I got back to my car with the 4 individuals and we were driving off, one of the young women reached into the side pocket on the door and pulled out an Iowa map from the 1990s and turned it over, and what is on the back of that map but a photo of our then governor. And she looked at that and said, "Isn't this the guy we just met?" I said, "Yes, it is. Guess what? You just had a photo taken with him, and now you can take a map back from Iowa that had his photo on it, so you can prove to your friends and family that you actually met former governor of the state of Iowa." So with that, we are adjourned.